Martha interrupted them when she entered the living room with some fresh squeezed lemonade. "Here, old man, y'all gone need something to drink with all that talking y'all doing?" Samuel smiled. "Thanks, I sure do." Taking a drink, Samuel smacked his lips as Martha handed Cush a glass. Samuel continued. This rang true for the Wakatilians of Ireland. He paused. "Martha, this here lemonade is something else." Martha smiled. "Thanks, babe." Samuel continued as he smacked his lips again. "Like I said, this rang true for the Wakatilians of Ireland, and the life in Ireland was cruel toward the Wakatilians. For the next 200 years after Chi's death, the Abenians took revenge on the Wakatilians. Because of what she had done, the silver pennies were thrown out, but the Wakatilians found them and kept them for themselves. It was so bad that they started immigrating to the Americas as a way to get out. But even that wasn't a joyful event. Because they were Wakatilians, they could not travel the way the Computans did. And on top of that, the Computans started spreading rumors that they carried contagious diseases. Computans hired desperate Anakitas to ship them on old rusty naval ships as indentured servants to the Americas for the price of 1 year of servitude. As it showed lucratively, the cost increased every year as these immigrants rushed to get out of the country. The first servants imported into the Americas were just a few hundred Wakatilians promising to send for their relatives afterward. They referred to these laborers as servants, not as slaves, because many agreed to work for land and rights. Little did they know, it was just empty promises and straight-up lies. Samuel continued. Indentured servants were slaves as it has always been since the 1600s. And let's not forget what happened to Libya after the murder of Muammar al-Gaddafi. Slavery applies to any person bought and sold, chained and abused, whether for a year, a decade, or a lifetime. Over the years, many Wakatilians died long before their indentured services ended. Those who did make it were denied their freedom. Do you think the justice system would have helped them? There was no justice system, no court of law, just 10-1. Who would back them when their owners failed to deliver on their promises? The Abenians? I don't think so. Millions of so-called convicts, beggars, homeless, and other undesirable Wakatilians were transported to the Americas against their will on slave ships. Once that money got good to the Anakitas, it was a free-for-all. Those slaves who volunteered did so only because they knew their future in Ireland would be more poverty, disease, and oppression. From the Computans and the Abenians because of Chi or Anaya, the first. They were stuck on an island with nowhere to go. America became their dream. These ships were a repeat of the trans-American slave trade. They were so crowded and in terrible conditions that many died on their way to the Americas. Even as the ships were docking, they soon learned that living in America would be a battle for survival. Thousands of runners, usually large groups of greedy men, swarmed aboard the ship before they could dock, grabbing them and forcing them to tenement houses. They then would charge an outrageous fee for their services. Some of them had to settle in the ports they arrived in, begging on every street corner. Samuel paused as he finished his lemonade. Unfamiliar with plumbing and running water, let alone technology. These living conditions bred sickness and premature death. They estimated that 75% of all infants born to the Irish Wakatilians immigrants died. They were ridiculed for how they dressed, for being poor and illiterate. Instead of apologizing for themselves, they soon united and took offense. They often met insult or intimidation with violence. Solidarity was their strength. They helped one another survive this life. They prayed and drank together. The men seemed to do more drinking than praying, yet their faith and determination led them to create the Sabaoth First Temple of the Americas. It was a militant church, a church that fought not only for their souls, but also for their human rights. During this time, one of the greatest Wakatilians came on the scene, a Buxigan, which means wildcat, from the clan of Tablida, the son of Wanyanyekavu and Queen Anaya, the first. Your grandfather, the man from the other side of nowhere, some called him. Cush looked at Samuel. The other side of nowhere? Samuel just smiled. I will get into that later, just know he was a young man, a few years older than you, when he arrived. But he grew into a man of significant influence who became the reasoning force between all Wakatilians in those parts. They united and destroyed one of the evilest Abenian demon there, Batet. He understood that the Computans and the Abenians were the enemies. They were trying to force our people to destroy one another because of geographical locations, faith, skin color and tones, and other idiotic reasons, and Abuksigan wanted all Wakatilians, Anakatas, and even Computans united as one. He even saved a few Computans in the process.